Sports is proudly presented in their finest sporting tradition by Alfa Romeo.
Them golden slippers. This afternoon, the world's greatest two-year-old classic, the first $1 million race ever held in Sydney. And we'll be taking you out to Rose Hill for all the action of every race live. The world's ski fly. Of course, here in Sydney, the Golden Slipper, our first $1 million horse race in Sydney, the two-year-old classic. We believe it's the greatest in the world out there at Rose Hill. I know that Johnny Tapp is quite certain of that fact.
Yeah, Gibbo, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon, everyone. It's a glorious autumn day in Sydney town for the running of the first $1 million horse race in this state. You folk in Melbourne, of course, beat us to the punch with last year's Foster's Melbourne Cup. A big crowd in attendance, pretty hard to estimate at this early stage. The mounted police earlier on in the day escorted the Governor of New South Wales, Sir James Rowland, and Lady Rowland down the course proper to the plaudits of the crowd, where they were welcomed at the enclosure gate by Jim Fleming, the chairman of the Sydney Turf Club. We've heard some magnificent brass band renditions performed here today by the police band, who do a remarkable job at all of the big race carnivals in Sydney, both at Sydney Turf Club and AJC courses. The oxide and peanut oil print has been used to great effect on the turf in the mounting enclosure, and all the colours of the Golden Slipper runners are being displayed on shields right around the mounting enclosure fence. There's the favourite bounding away, just flashing through there, and as you can see by those particular colours, it's going to be a spectacular sight indeed. And there are our two little mates. Immediately after the running of the Slipper and the Tancred Stakes, a man rushes onto the track with his paintbrush and his palette and the colours of the respective winners of the Slipper and the Tancred Stakes will be painted on those jockeys, and there they'll stand for 12 months. I'm not going to use that other word that got me into trouble 3 or 4 years ago. Speaking about colours, Gibbo, where did you get that tie?
Yes, pink didn't bring you much luck the day you wore it on Sports Sunday. I think the next evening you had a bit of a tumble, John.
So right.
OK, we'll leave you out there, and we'll be crossing out to Rose Hill right throughout the afternoon. We're bringing you all the races live, particularly the big one, the Golden Slipper. And if there's not much...
Town being the two best that TJ has prepared, and I know that he certainly endorses those sentiments. If you happen to run into him at a social function, he'd agree with that every inch of the way. In fact, I did hear him say in one interview when Kingston Town was right at his brilliant best that the King probably had a slightly better turn of speed than the great Tulloch. Tulloch won races under crushing weights, and the day he won the Brisbane Cup at his last start in a race under close to 10 stone, many people wept at Eagle Farm, including TJ Smith himself. So it's great to see a race named in his honour. Ray Hadley's ready now with the approximate tote call on the third event.
Thank you, Tappy. Good afternoon to you. Well, a magnificent day for the Golden Slipper. The humid weather being tempered by a nice nor'easterly breeze just coming in right at this very moment, Tappy. And Roger Manning, the leading rails bookmaker, tells me one of the biggest betting races we've seen for a while. In fact, since last week, of course, we had that very big betting race. But he said there's plenty of confidence about a number of horses, including Periscope, 6 to 1 on the tote, but shorter than that in the ring. Common Sense at 5 to 4. Opened up 5 to 4 on, out to 5 to 4 against, but it has been backed at that price in the ring. Indian Raj, 3 to 1 on the tote, but around 9 to 2 in the ring. Tierra Wrist at 9 to 2 and shorter than that in the ring by about 1.5 points. Sir Lustrious at 30 to 1. Like a Knight at 40 to 1. Wilhelm at 11 to 1. And Count Rossi, the outsider in the field, at 100 to 1. Well, John, everyone that's everyone in racing's here today, including Mr. Robert Sangster, who has 3 horses in this particular race. I don't want to appear to be name-dropping, but I just said to Bob, a good day's racing. He said, yes, it ranks right up there with the Melbourne Cup.
Yes, he's got a very big rap on the Melbourne Cup. That's one meeting he certainly loves and never misses. It hasn't for many years now. Mick Dittman rides Common Sense in the race. Let's see what he had to say about the horse's prospects. OK, apologies for an audio problem with that Mick Dittman interview. I can tell you that Mick spoke very highly of Common Sense. It's a horse that he has an opinion of, and he expects him to be very hard to beat in the Tulloch Stakes. Common Sense is in line for 4 straight, having won at Canterbury, Gosford and Rose Hill. OK, it's a colourful and spectacular sight here on Slipper Day 1986. Crowd, I don't know that it's anywhere near the record of 40,000. I think that was established the year Riesling won the Slipper. And the new stand has caused a little bit of cluttering, a little bit of inconvenience, and in effect will keep the crowd down slightly. But they're off and running, and here they come now. And Tierra Rist is the leader as they appear in view over Common Sense, followed by Periscope, Indian Raj. Close handy then as they settle down as Wilhelm on the fence. At the head of the others is Like a Knight. Sitting out 3 and 4 deep in the early part, Sir Lustrious, and back at the tail of the field is Count Rossi. Past the 1600 mark to the back they go, and Dittman's riding this like a good thing, Common Sense. He allowed him to stride to the front, and the horse has got his ears pricked as they wheel into the back straight, led by 2.5 lengths now. Periscope is poking up along the inside of Tierra Rist, and about 2.5 to Indian Raj, followed by Wilhelm, Sir Lustrious, Like a Knight, and Count Rossi is last as they wend their way down the back straight at the 1300 mark, and gee, the leader's bolting. It's Common Sense, a length on Tierra Rist. In third place, a neck away, Periscope on the inside rail. A length and a half then to Indian Raj, followed by Sir Lustrious, and further back Wilhelm and Like a Knight, and 2 lengths away last Count Rossi, given a slap down the shoulder with the whip at the 900 mark on the top turn, and Common Sense held together, led by a half to Tierra Rist on the outside. Tierra Rist is a very strong stayer, and he's up there putting pressure on the leader. His jockey probably thinks that's the only hope he's got of beating Common Sense. Periscope getting the run of the race on the inside, followed by Sir Lustrious, Indian Raj close handy, and then Like a Knight and Wilhelm, who's flat to the boards, and Count Rossi tailed off as they near the turn. Common Sense with the inside running about 3/4 on Tierra Rist. In third place, Periscope hard ridden, and then Indian Raj turning the corner, followed by Sir Lustrious, but they've straightened up. Tierra Rist rolled outwards, and the run comes for Periscope, who's going after Common Sense, and it might be Jay Cassidy again. I think it is. He took a peep over the left shoulder, saw no dangers there as he drives Periscope to the lead. A 6-1 pop on the tote. Periscope is starting to draw clear. This is his first crack at 2,000 metres, and he's going to win easily. This bloke could win on a billy cart at the moment. Periscope won by 4 lengths to Common Sense. Third, Indian Raj. Fourth, Tierra Rist, and then Wilhelm, followed by Sir Lustrious and Count Rossi, and Like a Knight back at the tail of the field. Well, Dance Hall Girl in the first race led until the shadows of the post and just got caught. Cassidy's mount in the first event. He won the second race on a 66-1 shot, namely English Mint, and he's bobbed up on a 6-1 pop in the third race, Periscope. And there were a lot of people here at Rose Hill who thought this had no hope of beating Common Sense, or for that matter, Tierra Rist. But the jockey, there's no one in the world riding with the wind behind him more than Jay Cassidy at the moment, and anybody not backing everything he throws his leg across doesn't want to back a winner. Periscope in the Sangster colours is by Rasendil. Most of those are sprinters, and yet we find one of them winning over 2,000 metres. Common Sense was entitled to do a hell of a lot more than he did. I know he led, but he led easily. He just coasted along under a good strong hold all the way to the turn, and when they straightened up, he just caved in. Very, very disappointing. Now, Robert Sangster, as we mentioned earlier, is present at Rose Hill, and Ray Hadley speaks with him now.
Well, congratulations to you, Mr. Sangster, that you've made it 2 from 2 so far this afternoon, and a very impressive win by Periscope.
Won very nicely. He's an improving horse, and I think, you know, he'll get a bit further.
In contrast to English Mint, it was a little bit more popular with the punters.
Oh, well, yeah, yes. I think the form was there for everyone to see. He's by Rassendale, the Northern Dancer horse, so I was particularly delighted because it was a Group 2 race, and you know, he's got stallion potential now, this horse.
Well, all this counts for nothing. The big one really is the Golden Slipper and Magic Flute, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Well, I may have had my luck, but you never know. You've got to go with the winning thing, I think.
Good luck to you, Mr. Sangster.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Robert Sangster, John Tapp, English Mint, and that winner Periscope providing 2 from 3 for him.
That's right, and he went close to winning the first with Dance Hall Girl in the same colours. Well, it's always a great pleasure to hear pearls of wisdom from my former Wide World of Sports colleague, Kenny Callender, currently one of Sydney's most popular bookmakers. Let's hear what Ken had to say about the Golden Slipper Stakes.
Thanks, John. Well, now that I'm a bookie, I can't go tipping favourites. Bounding Away certainly looks a horse to beat in the Golden Slipper of 1986, but I'm going to stand her for plenty. If she wins the Golden Slipper, well, I think I'll be drinking lemonade. If she gets beaten, I'll be drinking plenty of Tuies. If Magic Flute had drawn an inside alley, I'd be extremely keen on her. I think she's at least the equal of Bounding Away, but I'm very worried about where she's drawn. However, Johnny Duggan already ridden the winner of a Golden Slipper, and he's won races like the Melbourne Cup. The pressure won't get to him. I think that he can place Magic Flute in a good position, and I expect her to go very close. I also like the Victorian Baton. I think his run in the Blue Diamond in Melbourne was at least as good as the winner's Bounding Away. Nevertheless, who knows? I'll be standing her, and I hope I'll be drinking plenty of tuies after the race.
Ken Callender from his bookmaker's stand at Rosehill Racecourse with the Golden Slipper Stakes, the next race on the program. Mike, wasn't it good to see that happy, smiling face again of the chairman?
It certainly was. He may have a bag in front of him, John, but he's still a punter to me. All right, well, don't go away in a moment.
Next 24 hours. By this time tomorrow, one top-notch 2-year-old will have written its name into the record books with a win in the $1 million Golden Slipper Stakes. But as many slipper jockeys have discovered in the past, the key to success is mastering the Rosehill track.
This is how it looks from a distance, but close up, it's a different story. Malcolm Johnston begins our run through Saturday's Golden Slipper, and drawn wide on the Tarn, the start is crucial.
Once you're in the barrier, it sort of goes back to being, now, let's get on with the business. The 16 horses wanting to be running 4th or 5th, and every jockey wanting to be running 4th or 5th, and there's sure going to be some shuffling, and if you miss the start, even a fraction, you're going to get left behind. It's a real pressure race. It's a mad bustle, and it's very, very exciting getting to that first corner, and then when you get your spot, you've got to hold your position.
Winding up for the run home, and trainer Brian Mayfield-Smith has already vowed Imperial Baron will mow them down. Jim Cassidy has similar feelings.
The fillies are probably going to be in front of me, Captivan and Bounding Away, and I think both jockeys are going to be sort of trying to put a break on the colt, you know, plus their other runners. So I'm going to be obviously coming from behind them and got to judge it right there, the last run at them, and hopefully get over top of them. I think the race is going to be won probably within the last 100 metres.
Should be a magnificent event. There was harness
Classic, the $1 million Golden Slipper, about 10 minutes before they jump. Let's get out there now to the one and only Johnny Tapp.
Thank you, Mike. The atmosphere is certainly electric as the runners file onto the course proper now for the running of the $1 million 2-year-old event over 1,200 metres. There's hardly a breath of wind at Rosehill. They've been running close to race records in the earlier races, and the track is absolutely on fire. A couple of surprise moves on the tote. I noticed 1 or 2 horses a little bit under the odds as far as the tote betting's concerned. We check it out now with Ray Hadley.
Thank you very much, John. Let's have a look at them from the top. Bataan at 12-1, Pre-Catalan at 50s, Breakfast Creek at 25-1, Imperial Baron from the Mayfield-Smith stable 11-2, Jimmy Cassidy looking for 3 winners, Hader Prince at 80s, Christopher at 30-1, Mayo Card at 25-1, Western Ace 33-1, Seaswill at 30s. Now Bounding Away opened up 7-4, is now into 6-4 on the tote, and shorter than that in the ring around the 5-4, 11-8 Bounding Away. Captivan 7-1 out to 15-2, but shorter than that in the ring at 6-1. Magic Flute at 12-1, Scotch and Dry at 10-1. Now there's been a bit of support for Scotch and Dry right through the morning apparently, leading into this afternoon's race. Just Blooming at 20-1 the tote, around 25s in the tote. It's also been well backed at long odds. Hit It Star at 40s, and Dreams Delight, John, the bottom one at 100-1.
Dreams Delight, one of 3 runners being saddled up by the Premier trainer Brian Mayfield-Smith. She was badly interfered with in a race here last Saturday in the Magic Night Stakes, in fact, behind Bounding Away, and she certainly should have finished a heck of a lot closer, although it's nearly impossible to see her troubling her more fancied stablemates here today, Imperial Baron and Magic Flute. A lot of people are rather amazed that the Golden Slipper has been able to reach such a pinnacle in a short time, really. Traditionally, it takes a horse race probably 50 years or more before it becomes legendary, but the Golden Slipper's been able to do that in just 29 years. It all started as recently as 1957 when a man called George Ryder, one of the original founders of the Sydney Turf Club, dreamed up the idea of a brand new race for the 2-year-olds. George would never have realised at that stage what it meant to be in years to come. Here is the short history of the Golden Slipper Stakes.
We went to 1,000 names, and all of a sudden I said, what would you give a baby? And she said, a slipper. And I said, what sort of a slipper? She said, a golden slipper. I said, no need to say any more. That's the name that I was looking for, and that will do.
George Ryder's long-time dream of a classic race for the Sydney Turf Club to hang its hat on finally came true in 1957, and as luck would have it, the Golden Slipper's first winner was arguably its greatest. The brilliant Todman won by 8 lengths, still the biggest winning margin ever. Todman was a son of Star Kingdom, and what a Golden Slipper dad he was. The next 4 Golden Slipper winners were also sons or daughters of Star Kingdom, but not only that, the 1958 winner Skyline and the 1960 winner Sky High were full brothers, the only time that has happened in the history of the race.
The last furlong of the Golden Slipper, Sky High. Mully draws the whip again, Sky High forging away from Winona Girl, and it's Sky High's Golden Slipper.
Golden Slippers I wanna wear because they're so neat. Oh, them Golden Slippers, oh, them Golden Slippers.
Shows the way at the ledger from April Wonder, followed then by on the outside, Grammar Lad looking the big treasure.
Golden Slipper Day 1962, and if it was your birthday that day, you must have backed the Golden Slipper winner. Her name, Birthday Card.
Birthday Card flashed up on the outside to hit the front, and Birthday Card's in front 50 yards from home, is coming away from them in the Golden Slipper, and Birthday Card hit right out, goes on to beat Proud Miss and Grammar Lad.
In 1963, it was the South Australian colt Pango Pango Slipper. In 1964, another colt called Eskimo Prince won it, a case of like father, like son, because Eskimo Prince's dad was none other than the great Todman. Eskimo Prince's owner, the late Perscalia, had a very big day, as his son Bruce remembers.
The day that Eskimo Prince won the Golden Slipper, he had £35,000 on the horse. And apart from the prize money, the pickup was $70,000. He won $70,000 on the horse. Naturally, he was jubilant, and at the presentation, a few of his mates from over the crowd said, "How about buying us a drink purse?" And he just threw some cash over to him, and everyone was happy.
Star Fair closing on her in the last 50 yards, but Reisling's too good, and Reisling wins the slipper from Star Fair.
1966 was to provide the famous combination of Bart Cummings and Roy Higgins with their first Golden Slipper winner. Higgins was aboard the Cummings-trained Storm Queen.
Going to the first turn of what we call the horseshoe bend at Rose Hill, it's a very sharp turn, and I unfortunately was racing on the outside and received a very bad bump, and was spearheaded off the track to a point where I thought then that the race is now over, I've got no chance, and I had to sort of bring her right back on the track and start again. But she was such a super filly that she was able to overcome these difficulties, probably give them something like 10 or 15 lengths at the 200 metres, and get up and win, beat a horse called Academy Star in a photo finish.
Them golden slippers, oh, them golden slippers I wanna wear because they're so neat.
In 1969, 40,000 racegoers, the biggest crowd ever to pack Rose Hill Racecourse, came to see the brilliant Vane take on the local champion Special Girl. But it was no contest.
But it's all Vane with a half furlong to go. The Victorian champion has the local idol beaten to a frazzle, and Vane races home to win the Golden Slipper.
1970 was the year of the miniskirt. It was also the year that George Moore rode the first of his 2 Golden Slipper winners, and what a horse he had under him that day, Baguette. In the straight, Moore had to push Royal Show out of the way to get clear, and once he did, it was all over.
Wins the Golden Slipper. I'm Scarlet second, Sovereign Slipper third.
For many punters, 1973 was a Golden Slipper they'd rather forget. That's because the odds-on favourite Imagil was one of 3 horses to come to grief in a spectacular spill during the event. Not that it did Imagil any harm, because he went on to win an AJC Derby. But it was Taunton and Slipper in 73, and another one for Bart Cummings and Roy Higgins. When experts argue about the best 2-year-old to ever win the race, it usually gets down to 3 names: Todman, Vane, and this champion, Luskin Star.
In 1977, he put up perhaps the greatest Golden Slipper performance to date, coming from behind and smashing the race record.
But here comes Luskin Star. Luskin Star, the Newcastle colt, with the blazing saddles in one stride. Lloyd Boy starting to run on well, but Luskin Star shot clear. He's a super colt, all right. He's making an absolute mess of them. Luskin Star careered away, and he's won the Slipper by about 5 lengths.
Into the straight, and the Bolter Super Swift as the leader. Clear by a length and a half on Palomino Star. Rory's Jester under pressure. Acumen getting along the rail, followed. Last year, Rory's Jester capitalised on a very good barrier draw to win the Slipper, but there were many hard luck stories from beaten runners. Gates open. Today is Golden Slipper Day number 30. Now the richest two-year-old event in the world with prize money of $1 million. It can only get bigger, richer and harder to win. Yes, it certainly is a race amongst races, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere in the world but at Rosehill Racecourse in Sydney town today, with the Golden Slipper for 1986 about 3 minutes away. Ray, anything happening on the tote?
Well, John, there's been a significant increase in the pool since last we spoke. Now $1,450,000 in the win pool and almost $1 million in the place pool, with Bataan the Victorian 12 to 1. It's unchanged. Pre-Catalan out to 50s. Breakfast Creek 25 to 1. Imperial Baron 11 to 2 into 5 to 1. Hader Prince is out to 100s. Christopher 33. Mayo Card at 30s. A Brambles Classic winner. Western Ace at 40s. Seaswell also 40s, bounding away now into 11 to 8 and 5 to 4 in the ring. Cap the Van 15 to 2. Magic Flute on the tote 10 to 1, but around the 6 to 1, 7 to 1 quote with bookies. Scotch and Dry, the New Zealand filly, 14 to 1. Just Blooming at 25s. Hit It Star at 50 to 1, and the outsider in the field of 16. Dreams Delight at 200 to 1. Tappy, I know you've got a preference for bounding away, but I think Imperial Baron, the colt, will certainly be there as the winning post looms up.
Well, we'll soon know, because we require about 90 seconds to post time for the Golden Slipper. The runners are being bundled in. There's 4 or 5 to go up. We've got time, certainly, to hear the impressions of jockey Jim Cassidy, who's riding Imperial Baron.
Well, Jim, the colt's done everything asked of him so far.
He's done everything asked of him, Ray. He's come through all of his races exceptionally well, and his last run here, he's run a bit of time, and he's really come through that race in leaps and bounds.
I think the most significant part about his win last week is the fact that you think he's improved since that.
Well, I certainly think he has. Like, it was only his third run of his life last week, and he's won 2 out of 3 and was pretty unlucky to get beaten the day he did. I'm really convinced he's improved, Ray.
They're going to carve out some time in the first 600. How far do you want to be away from whatever's leading as they come to the turn?
I'll only be 3, maybe 4, but if I'm 4, I'll still be travelling, but I won't be riding the ears off him to be any closer.
You've ridden a lot of important winners recently, none more important than Imperial Baron today. Let's hope it gets home for you.
Thanks, Ray. It'd be certainly a dream to win the Slipper today.
Well, a little bit of bad news now. Things have been running right to the 8 ball so far, and naturally enough, the Sydney Turf Club were desperate for the big one to get away right on 2:20, and it certainly would have jumped on time, but we've just been informed that the favourite Bounding Away has cast a plate. Behind the starting gates, jockey Mick Dittman is out of the saddle. The farrier John Shee is quickly on the scene. He's working feverishly to rectify that, and once they remedy that plate, it'll be back into the stalls. In fact, the whole field will move in rapidly, and there shouldn't be too lengthy a delay. At this stage, we welcome viewers in New Zealand who are picking up the telecast of Australasia's greatest two-year-old event, in fact, the world's richest two-year-old race. $1 million, the Tui's Golden Slipper Stakes, and a big welcome to our friends in New Zealand. Scotch and Dry, of course, is a New Zealand filly with a very good record. She's had 4 wins from only 5 starts, and I believe has already been sold to go overseas. She'll be in Sydney for a short time, where she'll be looked after by Randwick trainer John Nichols, and leaves for overseas very shortly. She's by Whiskey Road, who is an imported American horse actually standing in Australia. So Scotch and Dry's dam obviously went back to New Zealand in foal to Whiskey Road, and this filly was born in New Zealand, where she's been racing successfully. We had a very good galloper of the same name in Melbourne many years ago, probably 15 or 16 years back, Scotch and Dry. He was a stayer and became very well known with punters for getting out with big leads in his races. It was nothing to see the original Scotch and Dry lead by 30 lengths on occasions. We had a parade a short time back down the home straight at Rose Hill, and we might pick up some of the highlights of that just whilst we're waiting for these runners to move back in. One of the floats that came down the course proper was carrying young ladies wearing the colours of every previous Golden Slipper winner. And some of the colours brought back memories to the old timers. I could see the colours of the first winner, Todman, red, yellow sleeves, pale blue cap, colours of Sky High and Skyline, the full brothers who won Golden Slippers, the colours of the late Sir Brian Crowley, dark blue, orange, diamond orange sleeves, and people who make a study of racing colours certainly had a rush of nostalgia when they saw that gaily bedecked float come down the home straight a short time ago. The Scottish Pipers were here en masse, and they certainly captured the spotlight. We see them at Melbourne Cup time every year, and here in Sydney on Golden Slipper Day, and they certainly add a great deal of colour and spectacle. Now, it looks as though we have about 4 to go up now, namely Hader Prince, Captivan. What a beautiful filly she is, Captivan. She hasn't raced for 3 weeks. Neville Begg, according to a lot of people, took a risk in spacing her runs by 3 weeks, but Begg's a master at that. He knows exactly how much preparation they need, and Captivan comes into the race unbeaten in 4 starts. Now, Hader Prince and Bounding Away, they're the two we're waiting on. Hader Prince is by the former good local galloper Impish Prince. Hader Prince is trained by Mrs. Helen Crowley, who'd become the first woman ever to train a Golden Slipper winner, should he be successful. But Hader Prince looks only a remote chance because he's drawn right off the track. Now, Bounding Away getting rather stirry, and Mick Dittman has dismounted from the favourite. I thought that filly looked beautifully trained as she went down to the barrier. Bounding Away. There were reports last Saturday that she'd lightened off since winning the Blue Diamond Stakes in Melbourne. I don't think she's lightened off. She's simply not a robust type of filly. But what there is of her is well put together, and she's rock hard. Wears that famous T.J. Smith bone and muscle look. Now they're trying to get Bounding Away into the gates minus the jockey. That'll pave the way for Hader Prince. And they'll be set and ready. Now the starter will come over to his rostrum shortly. Let's see how we're going for time. They're about 3 minutes late, but now they're ready as the last couple move in, and the starter mounts his rostrum, and they're about to break. Sea Swell is the inside runner. Pre-Catalan drawn out wide. Christopher stands well, so does Scotch and Dry. Just Blooming, winner of the Black Opal Stakes at Canberra. Amber light flashing, and they're off and running in the slipper. A little slow to move at the start. Scotch and Dry and Sea Swell is last out of the barrier. Pre-Catalan and Captivan began brilliantly, and so did Bounding Away, followed by Magic Flute being rushed over from an outside gate. Right up there with them is Breakfast Creek in the early part, followed by Western Ace. Imperial Baron knuckled over. He all but fell, and Dreams Delight on his outside. Captivan got interference in the early stages and got shuffled right back into the field. And then Just Blooming as they spear through the gap onto the course proper, followed by Hit It Star, and then Sea Swell and Christopher. Bataan is a mile back, followed by Scotch and Dry, Hader Prince, and back at the tail Maya Card, and they're well strung out as they near the corner. Pre-Catalan, who's shown amazing speed, is in front as they turn for home. In second place on the outside as they straighten for the run in, the Queenslander Breakfast Creek. Imperial Baron on the fence behind them, and here comes Bounding Away. Bounding Away on the outside is racing up to tackle those leaders, followed by Captivan and Magic Flute. At the 200, Pre-Catalan tackled by Bounding Away and Pre-Catalan with Imperial Baron battling on strong.